the way that we keep it all together is we have a Bible that Mark put together that everybody reads and then forgets about. But since I'm the publisher, I've read every single one, and it's incumbent on me to make sure that they all stay true to the Bible.
The stories we've read capture our attention and immerse our minds in settings of all kinds to bring us the spectrum of feelings and deliver the tale of tales to our starving psyches.
Whether it's medieval-style fantasy with mages and knights,
or hard sci-fi takes on the future of space colonization,
or thrillers set in your backyard, world building is the foundation that holds up the narrative, the glue that keeps it from unraveling as readers follow the journey you laid out for them, all to make the stories jump from the pages and burn themselves into our memories.
Welcome, weary writers, to Book Career in a Year's network of podcasts. This is Worlds Asunder, an insightful podcast on world and character building.
My co-host is the one and only David Shadoin, better known as Shady. It's not just a descriptor, it's also his moniker.
And she's the H.Y. Gregor, but you can call her Haley or Sour Patch, your friendly post-apocalyptic wasteland elf.
We know. We have nearly a score of published novels and short stories between us, but who the hell are we to teach you about world building and character development? We get it, which is why we decided to call in some favors.
Each week, we pull from a list of the best and brightest authors, editors, and publishers to give tips and guidance on tackling the age-old questions and provide you with tools on how to accomplish world building like the pros. From environment to magic to characters, how do we strike a balance between what matters to our audiences and what matters to keep it all straight? Open up your ear holes
and your minds
and get ready for us to tear worlds asunder.
So, if you're ready,
just knock and enter. Let me tell you a story. Actually, there's too much. Let me sum up. We're still having audio issues. It's the same audio recording that we used previously. So I apologize in advance that some of it is still a little off. It didn't quite get balanced right, but we will work on fixing it for future episodes. Thanks again for watching. So there, we kind of mentioned it at the beginning, and we talked about it a little bit. We are aiming kind of at the new authors, but we're also aiming at some of the, the middle tier authors, people like me who have a couple of publishing credits to their name, but we're still developing our careers, right?
Well, Stephen King said the first million words you write is crap. So till you get,
real close.
and I say that kind of jokingly, but as I look back on my writing career and what I've done, and there is a long period of development, and I think as a writer you're always developing. If you're not, that's a problem. But really somewhere around the million word part, you finally figure out what you're doing and how to do it right, whatever right is for you. Yeah. But I went back and read my first books and said, oh my God, how did people read this? This is awful. This is, and I had to go back and redo them and re-release them, the first 3 or 4, and the next ones, equally could be done, done over. It's like,
see, I cheated. I picked up a co-author who's much better at this than I am, and so that made my first book a lot more readable.
Well, absolutely, and doing co-writes is a great way to learn. I mean, by the time I wrote with David Weber, I had 45 books that I'd written, I think, maybe more than that, and I learned more writing that book than I had in the 45 before it. Obviously writing with somebody of his caliber is a great opportunity, a blessing, whatever you want to call it. It certainly was something that was wonderful to do, and I learned a ton from it that I now try and pass on to all of the people in CKP.
And we greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. And so often I think that we think of writing as a solitary thing. There's that romantic figure of the, either in the cave or the tower, depending on the writer you're referencing, that they're just, working on their own. But I think that for shared worlds and for co-writing, which CKP is really known for, right?
Yeah, we have some really big shared universes.
Yeah, and a lot of co-written novels.
Yep.
So, and I know that a lot of people, they do get their start like that. And I am learning to co-write, which is a whole other beast.
But I like co-writing. Not only can you complete things faster, but it's like that whole shared world thing where you've got people coming in with different ideas.
Yeah, the ping pong.
Yeah, and I've had some of the best experiences co-writing. The main storyline books for the Four Horseman Universe are Mark and I, and neither of us are outliners. But we, so when we start,
90-something book series.
yeah, but so we'll okay, we're starting here. We need to get there, and we always do, but a lot of times we go wee over to here and then wee over to here and then get there.
But it seems like the readers love that, right? Because it demonstrates like the breadth of everything. And I know that like genre-wise, it's all science fiction, but you have written something that is vastly different as far as like subgenre and subtype, sort of like a noir thing. And then you have your murder kitties and everything else. So that you guys have really tested like the different options that are available in subgenres.
I'm an author who masquerades as a mill sci-fi author. I have yet to actually write a mill sci-fi story. But
Companion to Ghosts
is a noir buddy cop book that's going to come out under a mill sci-fi title.
but it's got mill sci-fi stuff in
It
there.
does a little bit. It's like John Wick meets LA Confidential, and by the time this comes out, that book will have been out because this will come out probably in July, so that book will have been out about 2 months by then. So go hit it up. But there's my shameless self-plug, Nick. Thanks.
And shoot, by that time, it'd be pretty close to the audiobook for it coming out.
Yeah, check that out. But kind of rewinding just a little bit, we were talking about the different levels of authors, especially kind of in a mill sci-fi world building aspect of it, and you brought up Stephen King's Million Words thing. When you go to world build, what would you would you give different advice to the different levels of authors on how much world building they need to do before they start putting words on paper?
Every author's different.
Yeah.
I probably do less before I start writing and bring it in as necessary, as I need it. Usually, even for me, I've done it a number of different ways, depending on who I'm working with. Even when I'm by myself, sometimes I do quite a bit of it. Sometimes I do less. When I was writing with David Weber, the first book that we did, we were getting ready to start on it, and we were shooting for about 100,000 word book. He said, I really want to keep it to 100,000. And I'm like, okay, I can help with that. I can keep it. Yeah. Well, for him, he writes door stoppers, and a 100,000 word book isn't going to stop a door. So we're getting ready to do it, and he says, okay, well, I put together a little bit of the world building on this, and he gives me a document that's 200,000 words long. And I'm like, wait, we're only writing a 100,000 word book. Why do I need to read 200,000? But that's, he's a firm believer in doing all of the world building first and getting down into the nitty gritty details of each race and why they do what they do and what their ethos and he's amazing in that. I'd rather write the book.
He's probably written 1 million words of world building.
In the last 5 books alone.
Yeah. So how do you decide what to incorporate? Like what's important to readers? What's interesting? Because sometimes you have to have stuff that's just fun. What do you decide, or how do you decide what to exclude? What's the
does it move the story along? Is it important to the story? If it is, then yeah.
So we don't need to know about how a certain alien race like grows their wheat. We just need to know that they have bread.
Yeah. I mean, unless it's going to become an issue where, you know, a famine has wiped out, you know, the crops, or somebody came in and firebombed their one only place that they can grow it because this is the only place that the climate is right. You know, is it important to the story? If not, then, you know, it's like logistics when you're writing mil sci-fi. Logistics is incredibly important to winning a battle, but it's boring. It is so boring. Nobody wants to read about it. Unless you're going to go in and take out their supply lines. Then it becomes very important. You know, and other than that, you know, or you're not getting bullets fast enough. Why not? You know, and all of a sudden now there's a reason to have the logistics in there that normally just kind of operates in the background. You know, the system of money, system of commerce and finance. You know, most people just accept it. You know, you know how money works. You don't have to explain it, and you know it's so to explain somebody, you know, how the money works. I know how money works, unless it's something different and it's important to the story.
So lest any new authors out there think that writing 200,000 words of world building is normal, it is not. And if you are not like David Weber levels of prolific, you got to cap that a little, or you'll never write the book. I think that that's a common thing that, that new writers run into.
Right, and you know, somebody said, just write the book. You know, who was it? Oh God, I can see him.
Kevin Eikenberry keeps on.
No. Anyway, one of the masters.
It'll
you know,
come to you as
soon as we finish. You know, write the book, write it till the end, then go back. You know, a lot of new authors start writing, and then they write the first chapter, and then they go back and edit, and then they, you know, change that up, and change that. Write the second chapter. Let's go back and does it integrate with the first chapter? And you tie yourself down so much that you don't really accomplish the story. You know, from a psychology perspective, you know, editing uses a different part of the brain than your creative side. You know, you've got the analytical, you've got the creative. So when you're trying to edit while you're writing, your brain is in opposition. So, you know, you're making yourself less creative by doing it. Just, you know, write the story and then go back and edit. Write to completion.
Haley just learned something today.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
No,
Well, it makes sense, right?
Well, and transitioning, I'm thinking because I recently have just made the transition from a heavy edit to outlining to, I'm about to jump back into drafting. And there's always that moment where you hate whatever you're doing for the first little bit, because I was just editing and I was in the groove, and then that stopped and I hit the wall, and now I don't remember how to write anymore. Right? It's the same.
Because you're using the one side of your brain, and then you try and flip over and do the other.
And it is agonizing for the first little bit.
And that's why typically I write first thing in the morning when I'm fresh and creative. You know, I'll do all of the writing for the day, and then I flip over and do editing. Or, you know, whatever the business stuff is that uses the analytical side. And usually it's right around lunchtime, so there's a good break there as I swap over from one to the other.
Caffeine, carbohydrates, sugar. Feel the news.
so is there, and you probably already touched on it a little bit, but is there one piece of world building that if you could go back and talk to, you know, recently retired, or were you, I can't remember, were you still active when you started writing?
No, I had retired. I did 20 years in the Navy. Then I was an elementary school principal for 5 years, and then I was doing government service work. And I started writing when actually about the time I was out of a job. And I had just started to work again, but I didn't have a clearance, and it was a clearance job. So I would have to go in to work every day, but I couldn't do anything because I didn't have my clearance yet. But if I didn't go, they didn't pay me. And I'd been out of work for 9 months, and I really needed to get paid. We had just moved from Pennsylvania back to Virginia Beach, and it was right as all of the government contractors were releasing people. They didn't want to hire anybody, and that's what I was looking for. Virginia wouldn't honor my principal certificate because they're jerks. So I basically was, I'd go in and read CNN all day. And I saw this one thing on the Chinese were looking to bring some cars to the Detroit Auto Show. And I was like, as I was driving home, I'm like, well, if they did that, half the people they bring are going to be spies. And if this, then that, and then this, then that. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a good story. That'd be a great story. I said, I should write that down.
I'm trying to remember the title of that book. I can see the cover in my head. It takes place in Seattle, right?
It takes place in Seattle. And I went back and forth, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be a great book. I should write it down. But what would I ever do with it? I'm not an English major. I don't know anybody in the business. I don't know anything about writing, but it'd be really cool. And I went back and forth as I was driving home, and I got home, and I had talked myself out of it. I wasn't going to do it. Who am I to write a story? And I walked in, and my wife said, hey, dinner's going to be a little late because life. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll write this down. So I pulled out my laptop, started typing, and she said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm writing a story. And she said, no, really, what are you doing? Because it was so far from anything that I'd ever done. We as a team, she's the creative one. I was the analytical one. I helped the kids with science and math. She helped them with the creative projects. And so there I was doing the creative thing, and she was like, what?
And now look at you guys.
And it's gone a little ways from there. That was Red Tide.
Okay. Shoot, I was real close.
Yeah, the second book was Occupied Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked at the covers this morning, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, he wrote those.
You cheated.
Yeah. But
and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah. But so if you go back to younger you when you first started that creative process, what would you tell? What is the one thing you would tell newbie author you about world building? The thing to not get caught up on, or something that you
don't let it prevent you from writing the story, like we were talking about. I mean, it's good to know where your story is set. It's great to do the world building you need, but it is secondary to the story. So it's don't let it drag you down where that's all you do. Like you said, most people don't write 200,000 word world building documents. And in fact, I only know one person who does. But then again, he's had a pretty good
clearly it's working.
Pretty good career, so maybe he's right and I'm wrong. And
well, so here's something so I've written one short story in 4HU. And it was co-written, and I really needed my co-author to hold my hand because I was incredibly intimidated jumping in. I think at the time there were only 80-something books last June.
But still, that's, oh my God, there's this massive.
Yeah, so I was kind of paralyzed jumping into it because I overthought it, as I do, and I'm sure a lot of other
Yeah. Oh, it's easy. Yeah, absolutely, that's easy to do.
So for people who are trying to maybe start getting into a venture similar to this, or if they want to write a Four Horseman story, how would you encourage them to kind of get over being overwhelmed, or what should they focus on to try to start learning? What's the most important aspect?
Well, if somebody was going to write in the Four Horseman Universe, and I'll just use that as the example. Say we have the next open call, which happens. We typically do about 2 a year. So whenever you see this, you're probably within 2 or 3 months of one way or the other. When people say, hey, I'd like to do that, but do I really need to read all 90 books? No, you don't need to read all 90 books. You read the Bible, which we put together so that you understand the way the universe works. That's a 10-page thing, I think.
Yeah, I was surprised at how big it was, actually.
Yeah, it's got the basics, and I tell everybody, read a book or two, just so you get the feel for how the stories are written. And it typically doesn't even matter, which books you pick out of the 93. It's probably more helpful to pick either one that Mark and I wrote, or one of the other core authors, just so you know that the tech and everything is super tight. But and tell your story. The rest of the trappings can be added on and massaged once you have the story done. And like I said, I've had a number of stories that we did have to go, okay, well, instead of this thing, instead of calling it a Y, let's call it an X, and then that'll work. Know anything about that?
It was an edit I got.
And trust your editors, right? That's the other advantage, is the continuity editors that are familiar.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things that for new authors to wrap themselves around, is being edited, because everybody has pride of authorship. Yeah. This is my baby. I worked on this for in some cases years. I don't want somebody to tell me I'm wrong. I don't want somebody to, and happily for me, when I was in the Navy, I was an admin officer in one squadron, and I had a CO that had to put his thumbprint on every single thing that went through. I could not get anything through without him even, doing something as little as changing Big Puppy to Little Dog. He would make at least one change. And I got used to that, and so when I started getting edited, I was like, okay, you want to call it blue rather than cyan? Okay, I don't care. Push it through. Let's go.
Yeah, and that was something like for working with you and working with Rob too a little bit, where I got you, like, I like to think that I am not hard to work with when it comes to editing. Now, you guys might think differently from the other end, but and I will challenge certain aspects where I'm like, yeah, there's a point that I'm trying to get across here. How can I best do that? And I think for some of our new authors, if you're going to be sitting kind of where I'm at, where I turned my debut novel in, and I'll even call out the edit that you were alluding to. There was a type of weapon, and I had mislabeled it, and I didn't know. I thought I had read the Bible the right way, and my intent was not to challenge them on that, it was really just to make it fit into the universe that already existed, because the point wasn't the weapon. So I had no real buy-in on that. But when he presented that edit to me, it was a real easy thing for me to go, whatever you think, because I'm like, yeah, make it work the way it should work, because that wasn't the point of the weapon. The point was to discuss how that tie-in worked. And so that's where, there are certain hills I think authors can stand on when it comes to editing, because it's your voice, or there's a particular idea you're trying to convey. But I think there's a way to compromise more often than not.
Right. And that's where I was going with that, is learning the give and take of it. Yeah. When an editor says, hey, look at this, they've been doing it a long time. There's probably something to it. Yeah. It behooves you to at least take a look. I don't require people take every single edit that's suggested to them. In some cases, authors are worried about changing voice and that, and okay, I get that. I'm an author too. I'm not only the hair club president, I'm a member. But a lot of times, people don't want to be edited, and they won't take it seriously. And I think that's a problem. Like I said, if somebody that's been doing it for a while, and a lot of times works for a publishing house, they know what the publisher wants, and is trying to do that. So it's a matter of trying to work with them and okay, well, what if this, what if that, is that okay? Okay, cool.
Well, and there are different levels of editing too, and you don't run into the developmental edit in the same way in a shared world, because it's already established. But when you're writing your own stuff, you start somewhere totally different, and people get real precious about that creative license, because I created this world from scratch, which is a little bit. You talked about Mark
Right.
dealing with that because that was his
It's my baby.
yeah, his creative development. It was his brainchild. And so when other people come in, they know that they're adopting something, that's already there that somebody else has, emotional attachment to. But like Shady, when you were working on yours, you already knew the weapons and the things that you were dealing with, you're always already shaping within that realm. So the development and edit process is totally different. Because
Okay.
if someone says, this is my world and this don't hold up, but for 4HU, we know it already works.
Yeah. So funny story about editing. I wrote my first book. Tried to get an agent interested in it. Sent it out to about 100. 54 I think said no. The other 40 some I'm still waiting to hear back from. I think by this stage the answer is probably no. But
The story well. Yes.
yeah. So I was looking at, okay, well then I guess I'd heard about this self-publishing thing, and I thought, hey, maybe I'll take a look at that. And so I studied a bunch, and I was military, so I know how to plan. So I put together a plan for how I was going to do this, and what all do I need, editing, cover, all those things. And all right, editing. So I need to send it to an editor. And I sent it to somebody. We worked out a contract. Sent it to him, and he sent it back, and he gave me a bunch of developmental edits, and I was like, but that's not editing. That's not what I wanted. I wanted him to tell me if are the words spelled right, and so I had a lot to learn.
And that's a whole other episode.
Yeah,
that's a whole other series of episodes.
Yeah, we will definitely go touch on some of this stuff too later on down the road when we really get into kind of the nuts and bolts of world building, and we will definitely have Chris back on for one of those episodes as well.
Thanks in advance.
Yeah. No, so I mean, do you have any other things for kind of we wanted to start from the beginning, right? This first episode was we wanted to talk about where do we start. Specifically with you, we aimed kind of on the mill sci-fi side. And we've got John Osborne lined up. We're probably going to look at kind of the urban fantasy track.
He's actually written the book on world.
He wrote a book on world building. We're really excited about it. But yeah, and speaking of people who have written books for helping out authors, one of the things that if we don't have him back on for this, somebody else on Book Career in a Year might call him up for it. But indie publishing for profit, and you've got several books under essentially the CKP banner for helping out authors.
Oh, absolutely. That's part of a series. Alluded to John's book on world building. There are 6 books, I believe now, that all deal with helping authors. After the first couple of years that I'd been writing, I put this together to document what I did, where I went wrong, so that hopefully other people didn't follow me in the wrongness. There you go. That book actually got the best comment ever. I was at a convention, and somebody was flipping through it. He said, "Hey, tell me about this book," and I was talking. Okay, well, it's one of the few books that handles both craft as well as the marketing side, which is important. And he was kind of, I don't know. And a young lady that had bought it the year before walked by and said, "I'm a published author today because I bought that last year." And he was like, "Sold."
That's awesome. Well, and the other selling point for these, which seems counterintuitive, but I don't think it is that they're fairly short. Right? Like you can pick up 1,000 author books that are huge, or it's a 10-set volume and you have to...
We intentionally cap it at 40,000 words. If you can't say what you need to, and in that, then...
Yeah, and it helps you keep from being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Is key for when you're first starting.
Right.
You have to look...
Oh, absolutely. But it's a two-edged sword, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
So how do you know what to study, what to do, how to figure this out when you don't know what you don't know? And that's what that one was put together for, was to take you through the basics of getting a book out and making money with it, which was something important to me. I only had, so much time, and I had 3 kids, and they wanted to go to college, and if there wasn't money in it, I would have had to do something else.
Yeah. Well, you've done great, and I know that working for you has been phenomenal. We've both had great experiences. Everyone I know has really great things
Thanks.
to say. So
Thanks.
It's been pretty impressive to see how fast everything grew for you.
It did. It went, from like 3 books, 4 books a year to, I think 72, 80, and that doesn't count the foreign translations, of which we had, I think 225 last year.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that much.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, if
They're
Shilling it out.
Yeah.
They're
And then you do audio as well. So
Yeah.
you've got that.
yeah, ebook, print, and audio for almost all of them. Definitely ebook and print for all of them, and trying to get the ones that will sell in audio,
Yeah.
which is a whole nother
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
topic.
Do you have anything further for our guest today?
I think that pretty much covers it. We appreciate you, especially since, like I said, 4HU is huge. I feel like we could have a whole series just on that. There would be so much to look into as far as like the different races and different planets. So we probably should do a series about like developing different races and world building, and because 4HU, they're really unique because a lot of them don't have human references. So figuring out how to describe them or like give them certain characteristics without saying he looks like a badger. That's huge. So I could keep asking questions for an hour, but we probably don't have time.
Oh yeah, no, and we could delve much further into this topic. So I'm gonna go through a couple show notes, and then we'll close it out here. So this has been the World Building Worlds Asunder podcast. We are going to be putting this out on Book Career in a Year. Big thank you to Nick Thacker for hosting us. Another big thank you to Chris Kennedy for showing up with us today and being our first guest. And we were first victim, and we're really excited to victimize him again if he's willing to. But yeah, so
Well, alrighty then.
if there's anything you guys want us to cover, we've got several episodes we've got planned and lined up, different things that we're going to cover. We like Haley said, we could literally go on a lot of this stuff for hours and hours and hours. But we're going to try and cut this down. This episode, we were recording live here at Fantasy in April in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, and it will probably not come out until about July. So that'll kind of give you a reference. Some of the references we're making are a couple months old by the time you actually get to listen to this. But we are, we've talked about Mark Wandry, we've mentioned Chuck Gannon, we've talked about Dave Weber. We've got plenty of guests that we're looking at trying to get onto this podcast, and we'll give Mark plenty of chance to defend himself. Don't worry. Yeah, and I know exactly how to bribe Chuck, so this should be great. So look for us weekly coming out here. If there's anything that I haven't discussed, anything that we need to discuss further, any notes, check the show notes for the podcast. We'll leave them there, and links for all of our guests will probably be in the show notes as well. However, since we are going to close out here, Chris, where can we find you?
You can find me at chriskennedypublishing.com. If you join the mailing list there, you'll be alerted when the next open call is. Yeah.
And and Chris, I know you're always really good about answering questions when you can too. So if you do submit to open calls, he will give you plenty of mentorship on that, and you can ask for feedback that's what I did. My first short story was hit you up a lot about feedback on it and stuff. So.
And even when the answer is no from Chris, sometimes that ends up being still a really good thing, as it was for me. So no's are not necessarily bad, and everything helps.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to make sure the audience knows before?
I'm good.
All right, Haley, where can we find you?
I'm H.Y. Gregor. You can find me at hygregor.com, Facebook H.Y. Gregor, at Tovia H.Y. on Instagram, which I am trying to learn how to use because I'm a Luddite. That's me. I write mostly fantasy, but this is about Chris.
Yeah. And you can find me at davidshadoin.com, and all of my handles for all the different social media platforms are there, as well as all the books that I've published through Chris so far, because that is pretty much the only place I've published is through Chris Kennedy Publishing. So But yeah, you can check it out there, and I've got links on my website to both Chris Kennedy Publishing and the New Myth imprint as well. But thank you again, Chris. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you guys next week. Wrap. You've just finished the episode, the one where we started with Chris Kennedy, part 2. Hopefully you got some good takeaways from his insights into world building when it comes to a big universe where multiple authors play. And you get to see a little bit of where I got my start as a writer. Thanks for stopping by. As always, links to our guests and to ourselves are in the show notes. And if you head over there, you can follow us on all the different social media platforms. Tune in next week for The One with Chaos. Katie Cross, part 1. Don't forget to subscribe and like our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Wondering about that, are we allowed to swear?
On this, yes, but if it's posting to YouTube, try to hold it off for at least 10 minutes.
I'm gonna try to not to, but
Yeah, I'm going to wear my professional face and not,
That's fair.
but
I wasn't really planning on swearing too much, but I know it happens with me, so it's...
I was more just kidding. I was a principal of a Catholic elementary school. I can go a long time without swearing. My kids never heard me swear until they were 21, I think. They heard Sheila swear all the time. They never heard me swear. They're like, if you were in the Navy and she wasn't, how come you don't ever swear and she does?
Where does swearing like a sailor come from? And thanks for your helping us tear the worlds asunder. We'll see you next week.